Hello and welcome to another fun-filled nonsense retrospective. I'm your host as always, Rick, and joining me equally as always is Devon.
Hello.
And today we're talking about Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. On that end, I'm gonna open with my own nonsense asinine hypothetical. And it's related to the series. If you could see a character from an existing game appear in the future, who would it be?
Oh, you mean from the Persona or SMT franchise?
If I were answering the question, it would mostly be a Persona character, but yeah. Since you've played everything pretty much, it extends to SMT as well.
Pretty sure your answer's probably Nanako.
Pretty much. There are other answers to it as well.
It's a weird one, really, because the way they left Persona 5, it feels like all of those characters are going to come back.
Yeah, kind of.
So, kind of disqualifies them, because I just feel like they're a dead cert anyway.
Like, there's already been essentially 2 Persona 5 2s.
Yeah, that's weird. Let's get into that later. I don't know, man. If it's locked to Persona or SMT, it narrows it right the fuck down. I'm going to do a cop-out cheap answer, I'm afraid. I'm just going to say Naoto, because she can slot into pretty much... Like, I would have equally have said, like, Goro Akechi, but I'm convinced he's going to turn up no matter what fucking timeline you're in, whenever. So, you could quite easily see if there's any criminal aspect in a future Persona game, Naoto could turn up as a proper adult detective.
Oh, totally. She's even got her own little spin-off as well.
How so?
It's like a visual novel where, like, she's the main character.
Oh, that don't count.
Well, except it kind of does. That shows the precedent that the creators value her enough to put her in the starring role of something like that. So, it's good that they've seen that already, and it's possible that they might do so again in the future.
Visual novel starring a detective as a protagonist. It's a fucking Phoenix Wright ripoff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't hold visual novels in high esteem because in my brain visual novel equals porn game. Despite the fact my first visual novel was Ace Attorney.
Well, yeah, fair enough. In my book, a visual novel equals book with clicking. So yeah, Ace Attorney. But yeah, do you have one for me?
You get to make any god your bitch, as in that it is your persona. Who do you pick? Doesn't have to be a god, it could be a demon or something from mythology.
I think Loki's a bit of a low-hanging fruit, so I'm probably going to go with maybe any of the Egyptian gods is also a bit of a low-hanging fruit because they're all kind of already personas. I think one that I've not seen too often is Bastet, the cat god.
I can't think of her off the top of my head appearing in it Persona SMT.
So yeah, barring the fact that we might have seen one already and forgotten about it because it might have been too low level, I'd say Bastet is a pretty good one to have as a persona / demon / whatever, but a high-end one.
I don't know, man. I find that actual god-level beings tend to start cropping up at about level 50.
Yeah, but level 50 is kind of the beginning of the end game for you anyway. You can probably take the end game with that kind of power level.
In Persona, yes. SMT, no.
If you're trying to take the end game in SMT at level 70, you're probably going to get your shit pushed in.
SMT does a very good job of, instead of taking a persona from a low level and keeping proving it, you're better off fusing into a base, already high level, powerful creature and just keep swapping every X amount of levels.
Yeah, there's like an ongoing improvement and you just feel the training arc as it's ongoing.
It tends to be my approach to SMT games, although sometimes it fucks me, but we'll get into it when we get into the podcast proper.
So yeah, we're going to get on to the meat and two veg of our talk today. Megami Tensei is one of the longest running RPG series out there, arguably the progenitor of the Mon genre, as in recruitable party members from a vast cast that you aren't expected to fully complete, and even in its earliest iteration, it was subverting what would become the tropes of the genre. Stuff that Pokemon tried to subvert years later in stuff like Pokemon Black and White was already things that were explored in Megami Tensei. Things like, is it right to enslave these creatures? Is it right to use them for our own ends? And also, yes, let's do so and let's form an evil team around it.
Case in point, in SMT, you don't recon a monster and catch it with a Pokeball and force it to work for you. You pay him.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's based on negotiation. Sometimes you pay them in life, sometimes you pay them in money, and sometimes you just intimidate them.
Yeah, there's a straight up mechanic in the newest game where one of the things you can pick up is occasionally monsters will beg for their life. And when they beg for their life, you go, okay, work for me, buddy.
But if one of them's already joined you, they get all sad and leave. Shin Megami Tensei is the newer and more modern incarnation of the same series, and Persona is a spin-off of that. And in the West, it kept the SMT branding but dropped the 3. And later, a year later, we got Persona 3, which was a soft reboot of its own franchise after the end of Persona 2. In Europe, Persona is almost immeasurably more popular than the parent series. These were followed by Persona 4, which is an even easier sell in its anime Scooby-Doo small Japanese village, and SMT4, which may have suffered a little bit from being shunted from the main console to the 3DS, Persona 4 gained a lot of sales by re-releasing the full home console experience on the premium handheld, the PS Vita.
Yeah, which no fucker has.
Well, here's the thing. That was the way that I got the game. It's a much nicer version of the same game, even though it doesn't really add much.
Jesus Christ, I remember when I played original Persona 4 on the PS2, because I played it way after the fucking fact. I messaged you. I said, oh, Persona... It was either you or Chris, and I was like, oh, Persona's great. Fucking Izanangi's crap. I said, oh, I'm constantly replacing my personas with different monsters because they just get better and better. And I think it was Chris, actually, because he tends to do this. And he said, oh, I just kept Izanagi and I pumped him up with skill cards. I went, what the fuck's a skill card?
Oh, yeah, boy.
And he went, oh, yeah, when you do the thing, sometimes you get skill cards. I'm like on Dungeon 3 and I've not seen a single skill card. What the fuck? He thought I was playing Persona 4G.
It's one of those, in Golden, it is actually possible to keep on power pumping the same character and just make them better and better. Izanagi's a very good one to do that with because it feels right to keep him. But yeah, if you're not playing Golden, then that's a very difficult thing to do because Izanagi is...
crap.
Yeah. All starter personas in Persona games are intentionally Magikarp. They're just not good. You're expected to replace them, but also... Okay, so they're like starter Pokemon, but not in the type that evolves way, because you're expected to use it as a fusion early on.
Well, case in point, to teach you fusion, they make you fuse your base persona. Or at least in 5 they do. I can't remember they do it in 4.
Yeah, in 5 they do, and your base persona gets decapitated because that's a thing that happens in 5. But even at the end of the game, he comes back because it's assumed that you've kept that persona in a chain of decapitations and fusions throughout the entire game, because you do. You pretty much have to.
It's also your persona. Like, even though don't have a physical form, physical body, like, they're still in you.
Yeah, even though it's not with you in its regular incarnation, it's still inscribed onto your soul. But yeah, in the present day, Persona 5 is the best the series has done to date, spawning a Muso spin-off, as well as music, but 3 and 4 have got those around the same time too, and a vastly expanded re-release that adds about another third to the length of the game.
Something that Persona does pretty much religiously, eh?
Yeah, the extended re-release. 3's re-release was interesting because it actually added a B campaign, where you were able to play as the female main character. It changed a couple of story beats as well. Oh, obviously your romances are different if you're a lady.
Yeah, can't have that gay shit in our Persona.
They tried, but they got put the kibosh on it because Yusuke wanted to be gay, but they decided, no, you gotta make him bi at best.
Yeah, but they still didn't implement that.
No. So now the only word of St. Paul we've got is from the English voice actor who says he considers him bi.
Jesus Christ, I hate the fact that bi is considered gay light.
But yeah, and then SMT5 came out very, very, very recently. So it's a little late in the script, but this is where we talk about our previous experiences. I bought a PS Vita for myself back in 2012, Persona 4 along with it. Loved every moment of it. The Vita version is the golden version, adding another playable week, a new final dungeon, 2 new social links, and the personas to go with them. But my actual first experience with Persona 4 was the Hi, I'm Daisy comic, which was so entertaining that it got me interested in how the game actually goes, and, you know, gags aside, it's pretty accurate for the first 60% of the game that it covers.
My text tone for the longest time was Dojima going, "Get me some sausages!"
Oh man, that was one of the best outtakes from that entire recording. Get me some sausages.
It like turns into Nixon halfway through the word sausages.
But yeah, how about you? What was your previous experience with the Persona and SMT series?
I played the weird bastard spin-off of the SMT series first, much like when I did Yakuza.
Was that the Digital Devil Saga?
It's called something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's still SMT when you're in combat, but it's also like Fire Emblem-ish.
Sure.
Like, you have a Fire Emblem mat, you move your unit to another unit, and then you go into the traditional SMT turn-based combat.
Sounds pretty cool, though.
It was very cool. It was very hard, and I was very young, and I couldn't even beat the first boss, Wendigo.
Oh boy.
So I very quickly gave up. Didn't even know it was an SMT game at the time.
This would have been back on the PS2, I guess, right?
I played the one on DS.
Okay.
And I know it's the one on DS because I stole it.
Oh boy.
You know, I told you before about those R4 ROM card things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told the dude behind the thing, I like strategy games. He went, I got you, fam. And this cart filled with fucking shit Fire Emblem knockoffs. But it also introduced me to Final Fantasy Tactics, so you know.
Yeah, fair enough. So a little bit of talk under the hood. Demons in SMT are the recruitable party members. Typically, the player character isn't a demon, but can make contracts with them. They can be based on any mythology, or could be deliberately marketability focused like Jack Frost, hee-ho.
He is the company mascot.
Yeah, he is. And personas in Persona are usually the same same characters as the demons in their origins and inspirations, but they're part of the owner's soul and essentially aren't speaking characters for the most part.
Yeah, one of the key differences between Persona and SMT, you have a lot more control over your party composition in SMT. In Persona games, the only person who can change their persona is the MC.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the demons coming in, like they can have people like Loki and shit. Although they obviously took Loki out of Persona 5 because they gave it to someone else.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the time, a demon or persona is removed from the player character's roster just so they can give it to one of the party members as their signature guy. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, Zhao Gongen is normally fusible when it's not. Is it Chie gets it?
Something like that you got to bear in mind as well. They change the appearance of the... If they're someone else's persona, they don't look like they look like in the regular demon compendium.
Yeah, when they're a unique persona, they get a unique look.
Like, it's actually quite weird, because in Persona 5, Persona 5's Yusuke, it's fucking similar names, bastards. Yusuke's Goemon Ishikawa, when you get him to max rank, it turns into Susanoo. There's still a Susanoo that the player character can summon, except it's Susanoo no Yorachi instead.
Okay.
To just slightly distinguish it, but it's silly.
Man, the first time I ever saw that written down, I never heard it spoken out loud, so I thought it was just Susan Ooh.
Oh, God, yeah, I can see that, though.
It's like comic book guy, Susan Ooh. But yeah, in Persona games, typically only the main character has what's known as the wild card, the ability to switch to any persona. But before Persona 3, all playable allies had this ability, without it being mentioned. It's implied that the ending of Persona 2 is what necessitated the change, well, in story at least, but in reality, it's all for game balance and the preservation of uniqueness. Because if everyone can do it, it's no longer special.
Yep.
I don't know much about the SMT stories about before 3, but 3 is all about the end of the world, and you're one of the few candidates for deciding how the next incarnation of the world should be. And in traditional SMT fashion, there's chaos, law, and neutral options, with neutral being explicitly harder because the big bads of both sides come for you.
I want to point something out, because I also make this mistake. It's not actually law, it's order.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it's the same thing, and we're using law because we play D&D.
Yeah.
But it is order versus chaos, not law versus chaos.
Fair enough. One of these bonus bosses is Dante from Devil May Cry, so that's fun.
Is this where we got the birth of the sticker that says featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series?
Yes. Because he wasn't in the Japanese version, he was just in the Western version because he was popular over here.
Dante is a weeb and everyone knows it.
Speaking of weebs...
No, he's not. Dante's the cowboy, Virgil's the weeb.
Yep.
Virgil's all katanas and shit, and fucking Dante's got his cowboy hat and guns.
Yeah. Speaking of weebs, though, similar to Disgaea, it became a very, very valuable game in the early and mid-2000s due to there being more weebs than there were copies of the game. But in modern times, with digital re-release, it's not that big of a deal.
I'm waiting for them to re-release fucking Persona 3 on Steam, because I've never played that game.
It's one of those where they re-released it with an extra chapter, and then they re-released it on the PSP without the roaming portion, so you essentially just select parts of the map to go to, like a visual novel, and they didn't include the extra chapter with that, so they could fuse both together and make the ultimate Persona 3 game, but we don't know.
The fact that they finally did Persona 4 earlier in the year gave everyone hope. Actually, it might have been last year by now, actually.
Well, these years are short.
COVID really does fuck with one's time perception.
Time is convoluted in COVID land.
Oh, jeez, it is, though.
But yeah, SMT4 has you be a sharply dressed samurai with a wrist-mounted computer voiced by Dr. Liara Tassoni. You descend into the underworld, which is just Tokyo, besieged by daily life with demons in an open masquerade. They tried to keep this information from you for about 20 minutes, with the very early game taking place in your shogunate's pocket dimension.
Dude, it's like 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, they do a pretty good job of making it feel like that's what the entire game is, apart from the fact that you got a computer on your wrist.
Yeah, but they say it's a blessing from God.
Yeah. Other than that, it starts feeling like a traditional RPG until you descend into the chaos, order, and neutral paths of the down below. And since I've played this, I can relay that neutral is a bitch to get on, but is way more satisfying than either of the extremes.
Okay, I knew that neutral was the best route to go down before I played the game, so I did my damnedest to be as neutral as possible, and I was so happy that I managed to succeed. Because unlike Mass Effect and other games of the genre, you don't get to a certain point and they go A, B, or C. No. Every single time you have a decision to make, you get order points and chaos points, and every decision is calculated, so whatever your final invisible score that you can't keep track of is, when you get to a certain point in the game, is the way your character goes.
Yeah, you got a 10% leeway on your alignment meter, pretty much, that if you're outside of that, you get stuck on one of the extremes, as far as I'm aware.
Pretty much. It's like plus 10 or minus 10 in between those two. Minus being chaos, plus being order.
I don't know what the maximum is, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard the 10. SMT4 had a semi-sequel, SMT4 Apocalypse, set a few years later, and one of the samurai jobbers who basically doesn't matter in the first game is now your spirit buddy in Apocalypse as a result of being dead. It didn't see a widespread release in the UK at least, so even people like us who actually care about the series to a degree didn't know about it until after the fact.
You told me about it the other week when we were first discussing maybe doing this podcast, and I was just like, what the fuck are you on about?
And SMT5, well, since it's the newest, we're going to leave that for last. So we're going to get into Persona. We're going to talk a little bit about the first two games first. Persona 1, 2, and 2-2 were on the PS1, and they weren't released in Europe until relatively recently as a re-release. If you've ever seen a picture of radical anime Hitler, it's a sprite from Persona 2.
Yeah, I never touched either of these games. I know nothing about them.
When they released him in the West, they gave him sunglasses and changed his name from Hitler to Führer, but obviously he's Hitler, because he's still got the Hitler mustache.
I guess because that might have been influenced because Germany.
Yeah.
In Germany, you're not allowed to mention Hitler or show any Nazi symbolism in your games.
Yeah.
Which was a bitch for Wolfenstein.
Yeah. They had to change everything to be some kind of other cult.
Like, all the banners are still red, but they no longer show swastikas.
Yeah, isn't it like an eagle or something?
I couldn't tell you. All I know is that it was a real fuck for the devs. It's like, here, you're killing Nazis. Germany doesn't like the fact you're even referencing Nazis.
Yeah. The overarching plot in Persona 1, 2, and 2-2 is the big good Philemon versus big bad Nyarlathotep, and say that with a full mouth. To my knowledge, neither of them make it out of the end of Persona 2-2, though Philemon's motif of the blue butterflies persists from here on out as a familiar hallmark for players, even people that don't know why. And indeed, the blue motif and Igor have been present in the Velvet Room since day one.
Man, Igor is a creepy looking motherfucker.
Yeah, but he's almost always perfectly on your side.
I mean, yeah, even when he's not, he is.
Yep.
Dude, one of my favourite Igor interactions is in Persona 4. You know, you've got the confidant with Mary? Or is it Elizabeth? The Velvet Room attendant.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Every single game has the same gimmick, more or less, with their confidant.
You got a new Velvet Room attendant, and they all tell you, yeah, go make friends.
But their confidant is connected to, bring us this persona with this skill. And with Elizabeth, she asks you to fuse an elephant-looking persona. And when you hand it in, she goes, no, I don't think the nose is quite the same as my master's. It's fucking adorable. And Igor's sitting right there.
Yeah, he has a big nose. He's like a caricature of Mr. Burns.
Yeah, like turned up to 11.
He's like if Mr. Burns was played by Danny DeVito.
Jesus.
You can see it though, right?
A little bit.
As we touched on a little bit, Persona 3 was enough of a departure from the first three games that it was essentially a soft reboot. You star as a transfer student who gets caught up in some supernatural bullshit on your first day in the new town, and somehow instinctively know that the way to summon forth and weaponize your soul is to pretend to shoot yourself in the head.
Have you seen the comic book, the comic strip of Joker and Makoto standing next to each other?
No.
Joker's got his gun pointed at a demon and he pulls the trigger and nothing happens and he goes, what the fuck? And then it cuts to Makoto and Makoto's got the wrong gun and he just shoots himself.
Oh boy.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, because apparently they don't actually have bullets in those. They've got Nyx's feathers.
Okay.
It's enough of something to be fired at your head for your soul to go, oh no, I must help. But obviously not enough to actually go through your head and kill you.
Yeah. I'm not too hung up on this kind of thing, but I do remember Chris spouting this information at one point. The Persona 3 protagonists are canonically weaker than the Persona 4 and Persona 5 guys because they need assistance to summon their personas.
Oh boy. There is a slight difference though. In Persona 4 and 5, they go to a different world.
I've not actually touched Persona 3, do they not?
So in 3, it's a weird one. They have the Midnight Hour, which is the real world, but frozen in time.
Okay.
And then they have Tartarus is a place to go, and that's where it's like Mementos, but you go up instead of down. So that is a place that kind of appears during the Midnight Hour, but it appears during the Midnight Hour. It's loosey-goosey, kind of not a real place, but it kind of is. It sets the stage for all the stupidity of Persona 4 and 5 as well. It's a weird one, but we'll talk about the Midnight Hour as we get to it. A new mechanic is social links, friendship levels for certain NPCs and even party members, with nuggets of story at each level. And as you level these up, you get bonuses to the relevant arcana. And for party members, they even get their own little buffs, as they now have nothing to lose by giving their all for a trusted friend. And the majority of these are great characters. Mitsuru Kirijo Kirijo is a fantastically designed Super Senpai character, voiced by Edelgard, and I don't think they've topped her yet. And the closest thing we get is Haru and Makoto in 5, and even then, it takes 2 great characters to rival one damn near perfect one.
Don't forget, Persona's big selling point nowadays is being a waifu simulator.
Yeah, if they had one that was too perfect, it would make all the other ones less good. Aegis is a robot girl, showing that they weren't shying away from the weird stuff even now, and in the updated FES, or FES, she even gets promoted to main character for the post-game chapters, and gets the wild card herself. Oh, and Koromaru is a Shiba Inu, and he's also playable, and for some reason has personas.
And if you take him to the movie theatre to increase his bond, they kick you out.
I didn't know that.
I saw a clip of it on YouTube of you try and take him to the movie theatre, you go in, and they go, "Who brought a dog in here? Get out." You can't come in here with a dog.
You probably still get a persona boost from it as well, from sharing that fun little interaction as well.
I wouldn't know. I just remember that being funny and it being a clip I randomly got suggested by the algorithm.
He's the only Persona mascot not to talk on account of being an actual dog. So the majority of the gameplay happens at the midnight hour, a moment frozen in time where only supernatural beings and Persona users can experience the flow of time before normality resumes in time for tomorrow. And some of the things that happen take place in Tartarus, which is a dungeon that goes up, and the place where you go to level up something that's available on any day, whereas other things just take place out in the wide world, also in the midnight hour. Like one of the early bosses is on a train.
Do you suplex the train?
No, you're just on it, and the boss is there as well, and you have to go through the train and face the boss eventually. It's not a case of everything is within the TV world or mementos. There are twists, sure, but going too deep on these in a retrospective would be a little bit mean-spirited. Oh yes, and some of the social links are potential love interests, which is neat, and a trend which future games keep up. Persona 4 is where I really came into the series, and as I mentioned, it feels a bit like an anime Scooby-Doo to a degree. You assemble a Scooby gang of vigilantes, mostly from people that you rescue on your vigilante misadventures, to rescue kidnapped people from the TV world of the Midnight Channel to prevent murders. You're joined by even better characters overall. I cared more about Kanji and Naoto than I ever did about Yukari and Akihiko, and anyone who doesn't want to protect Nanako officially has no soul. Once again, Igor helps you by overseeing your Persona collection and encouraging you to become your best self in order to overcome the trials and tribulations of the coming year. And your mascot this time is Teddy, who wrestled with Jack Frost himself for the position of Atlas's overall mascot. And despite a couple of successful murders at the beginning, you basically never fail as soon as you get your powers, and compared to the bleakness of Persona 3 that you struggle against, Persona 4 is a vastly more uplifting in tone. The majority of the love interests in this game are your female party members, which is kind of fine because they're all endearing in their own ways.
Except Yukiko.
Well, yeah, okay. Some of them are thirstier than others, with Yukiko basically planning the names of your grandchildren by the time you're only halfway through Social Link.
Yeah, but Yukiko's not as bad as Rise.
Yeah, even when you're actively dating someone and actively tell Rise no thank you, she still treats you like you're together.
You gotta bear in mind, Rise is overly flirty, but it's also kind of just how she is.
Yeah, and she's not that flirty with anyone else either. She's got a crush on your main character because you were the main one that was rescuing her from the humdrum of becoming depressed, which is what she was falling into when she joined the cast.
And your character also does not give a rat's arse that she's an idol.
Yeah, which is great. It's something that endears you to her. It's rare in the idol business that an idol can like someone that's not obsessed with them being an idol. But yeah, Persona 5 is Persona 4 again.
Oh, quick question. Who was your waifu in 4?
Here's the thing. It was a really difficult one for me to choose between Rise and Naoto, so a lot of the time I flipped a coin. I've played through twice, once with each.
Okay, I can tell you, Naoto is my waifu from that game, but the first time I played that game, I didn't know she was an option, so I went with Chie.
Yep. The problem with Chie is that it seems like she doesn't realise that you're opposite genders until you confess to her.
Yeah, but after you confess to her, she's well into it.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, dick! Hey Chie, you like meat?
For steak.
Dude, I don't know why, but I just get a constant giggle of just thinking of the first time you whip it out. She just goes, steak!
Steak.
And that's why you went to the hospital with bite marks, where bite marks should not be.
They do a little gag in Golden. The first time that you show steak to Marie, the new character, she asks you what it's called. You can call them steak because it's short for beef steak. And if you tell her that, then she just accepts that as true and will call them steak skewers when she talks to you later about them. But yeah, Persona 5 is Persona 4 war again, but with a few things flipped on its head. Instead of staying with a policeman and having a detective join your party and being 97% on the side of the law in a small town, you're on probation in central Tokyo and always the underdog, legally speaking. Morgana replaces Teddy as Atlas's mascot and as the new mascot of this game. The mid-game upgrade from mascot doing your scouter to a dedicated supporter character is now handled by the little sister type Futaba, while Risei's role as an idol and model is taken by An, who joins much earlier.
One thing I'll say is I'm grateful that Morgana is not a blanket perv like Teddy, and his perversions are focused at one character.
Yeah, and it's also kind of fine that he backs off a little bit if you're actually romancing her.
But it's also like the dude's a cat. There's nothing can happen there.
Yeah, like the best he can do is like sleep on her. And when she's forgotten that he's a perv, but she's not going to forget that he's a perv. Villains in Persona 5 are typically personal to at least one of the party members, with starter villain Kamoshida being almost too real for a lot of people, using his position to victimize multiple characters, some of whom sexually, all of which, may we remind you, are children.
The only reason the target of his attack wasn't Arn is because Arn happened to be talking to you at the time.
Yeah.
Kamoshida straight up invited Arn to go to his place so that he could do that, and that's when you find her in tears and you take her to Big Bang Burger to have a burger and talk, and he goes, well, she's not coming. Oh, Arn's friend, you'll do.
Yeah, this is too real.
At the same point of time, he has been constantly abusing his students physically, like giving them beatings and under the guise of training them to be tough for the volleyball team. And again, there has to have been something that he did that was too far above just beating and general berating to cause this character to attempt, well, suicide.
Yeah, the other thing is, he's the one that broke Ryuji's leg.
Yep.
Stopped him from being a runner.
When you confront him initially after Shiho jumps and you see Kamoshida genuinely not give a fuck and just chilling in his office, when you go and confront him, Ryuji's all up to give the guy a smack even though he is clearly out fucking matched.
Yeah.
Kamoshida stands up and goes, oh, you're gonna try again.
Yeah.
You don't know that's happened yet, and it's nice foreshadowing.
It's a very easy way of revealing how both of these characters are. It's revealing that your ally and friend has the right moral compass because it's pointed against someone who's clearly a monster. So the villains this time are themed after the 7 deadly sins, obviously Kamoshida as lust, culminating in a tour de revenge against the guy who falsely got your main character put on probation in the first place. And he doesn't even remember you because you're not even a footnote in the absolute swamp of corruption he's swimming in.
It's far too real.
Oh yes, and there are many more non-party member love interests this time round, and both of us have a favourite Persona MILF.
They're technically not MILFs.
Okay, by the other definition of being Christmas cakes.
But yeah, by Japan's fucked up standards.
Yeah, the Japan standard of Christmas cake is if it's after the 25th, leave it on the shelf.
Ugh. Yeah, I like Narukami.
She's a very good character. And the thing is, she's a very satisfying social link even if you're not in a romance with her. It's really good to improve that character's life in particular, because not only that, it frees her up to improve other characters' lives out in the wide world, and you see it happen. It's very rewarding.
Now here's the thing, I like Narukami, I really do. However, it is scarily close to Kamoshida's story.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very explicit that Narukami does not want a relationship with you at the beginning, and eventually that turns because you get to know each other and you cover each other's back with each other's retrospective secrets. However, it's still a teacher-student relationship. She doesn't sexually assault you, like Kamoshida was doing, and while it is consensual, the power imbalance is there. The genders have just been flipped, so people tend to forget about it.
Yeah, the difference is between a teacher-student romance and teacher-student child abuse.
But again, fundamentally, in the eyes of the law...
Oh yeah, in the eyes of the law, it's statutory rape either way.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. You got to bear this in mind. There's actually a very interesting comic that I saw of Joker telling the Phantom Thieves, I'm going out with Narukami, and Narukami being all bashful, and everyone's like, oh, that's cool, dude. And then you just go on going,
Is it time for a change of heart?
But, you know, of course, Arn's going to be, like, hesitant to be accepting of that kind of thing.
Yeah, she's been on the receiving end of the same thing, but unwanted.
Yeah, but, like, again, when you're a kid, because I think Joker's canonically 16, you're not in control of that sort of thing in your brain. You're like, oh, there is an attractive person touching me and showing interest in me. Ba-doing.
Yep.
The wrong head is in control. I just feel like highlighting it. They play it in a romantic and lovely sense, but from an outsider looking in, it's not a good look.
It's one of those that it is well written, but yeah, I can see that there is a B-side to every story. And for what it's worth, my favourite Persona MILF is Taita Kemi.
Yeah, because you're an edgelord and you like emo girls. Can you see what word I was just fucking stopped myself from saying?
It's okay. Emo goths.
You like big goth mummy titties.
The majority of the game is framed, similar to Dragon Age 2, in an interrogation and retelling of the recent past, with the opening mission foreshadowing that your group will have a traitor who sells you out and get you caught. You slowly convince your interviewing prosecutor of the unbelievable realities of this fictional world until she unwittingly helps you fake your murder at the hands of the traitor, setting you up for the finale.
I need to cut in here. You know, I'm not shy about revealing that I've read fanfiction. One of my favourite ever, because it's so goddamn funny to me, is one of the ways he stalls for time as he describes in graphic detail how he had sex with Sai's sister.
Oh boy.
Except he just says Queen. He doesn't say Makoto, so she doesn't know. And then at the end, she meets the other Phantom Thieves, and they go, oh, this is Queen. And she goes, what?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, go on, you were going to say.
Persona 5 got an updated re-release, The Royal, adding in an entire third term to the school year, additional party member, but I didn't buy this because it was a full price release of something that could have been and should have been DLC, and if I'm going to play Persona 5 again, I'd rather do it on the Switch. And when they released the Musou spin-off Strikers on the Switch, I got hopeful, but there's no sign of the main series jumping platform as of yet.
I loved that when they teased Persona 5 Royal as Persona 5 R, the Persona subreddit went mental and went, we're going to get Persona 5 Racing!
It would have been alright, actually. And then we'll cycle back a little bit to SMT5. I'm going to toss this one over to you.
SMT5 is a great game. It's fun. It follows the key beats of SMT, which is you're dealing with an apocalypse world. Tokyo's fucked, but not really, but also really, depending on what point in the game you're in. They've made a lot of quality of life changes, which I appreciate. They got rid of equipment.
Okay.
You no longer have armor. You no longer have weapons. Your character just scales based on its regular stats, which is great. It's one less thing to manage. It is kind of a shame because SMT4 did this fun thing with weapons and guns, where if you had a spear, it would do a group attack with your regular attack.
Yeah.
And with your gun, you could have a shotgun or a pistol. A pistol was individual. A shotgun would attack the whole enemy party. Speaking of guns, they got rid of gun-type damage. That no longer exists. All the old gun-type attacks have been rolled into physical.
Okay.
So you still have Dream Needle, which used to be a gun attack, but now it's just physical. The other thing as well is the way skills work has completely changed. It used to be, in order for your main character to learn skills, you'd learn skills by leveling up a demon to its max level, and then it would go, hey, I'm completely leveled up. Here's my skills. Take what you want. You take what you want. And in order to get like Zeo +1 and +2 and increase your skills that way, you just get the copy of the spell again from a different demon.
Yeah.
That changes in this game. In this game, everything has its own natural affinity. For example, if you've got a fire thing, it's got like +5 to Agi, but -3 to Bufu. So all of its Agi skills are automatically at +5. All of its ice skills are automatically at -3. This goes for the main character as well, except the main character has 0 across the board for its proficiencies. In order to increase your proficiency with a spell, you have to learn Miracles, which is its own little thing in the Cathedral of Shadows.
Yeah, instead of Mido being, welcome to the Cathedral of Shadows, where demons gather.
The new animation for fusing demons is cool. I recommend watching it at least once and then skipping it all other times because it's 2 minutes you don't need to watch. I do the same thing with Persona 5. Like, how many times is seeing demons get their heads chopped off interesting? I think I'm about halfway through the game. I fought a boss that accompanied the very first major boss of the game.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm eager to see what happens, really. I'm balls deep in the conflict between demons and angels, which is a core theme in every game.
Isn't it a weird thing that the angels are also referred to as demons in terms of being demons that you can recruit?
Yeah, but that's always been a thing. Like, there's a demon called Demon, except, you know, it's spelt with the A.
Yeah, fair enough.
My favourite part of the game so far is very early on you get a flashback of all the angels are like looking up at the chaos place and they're like, we must stand our ground. And this giant fuck off thing descends from the sky and it stops and it's like, oh, that's Lucifer. 2 seconds later, oh my god, it's Lucifer. I'm so happy that certain designs for certain demons and personas are so consistent you can tell them at sight. But yeah, that's the long and short of the SMT5 talk.
Alrighty, what we like to normally do is to do our regular 3. So, do you have a favourite moment?
My favourite moment was beating Minotaur in SMT4.
Nice. That's pretty early on, isn't it?
It's very early on, but it's the first brick to the face of the game.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's the first major boss of the game, and it blocks off the more open world to you. Before you get to Minotaur, you are locked to the beginner dungeon.
Sure.
And it's a physical dealing bastard.
So if you don't have a way to resist it, you're going to get geoduted.
You will not have a resistance to physical this early on.
No.
But yeah, what about you?
Mine is probably going to rescue Nanako.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things, the game has built up your connection to Nanako until this point, and now you get your chance to show that you really care by going and rescuing her immediately on day one.
Yeah, you said to me once that if you don't rescue Nanako on day one, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, the only real reason not to rescue Nanako on day one is if you got so fucked up that you had to retreat at the 9th floor and then come back for day 2.
Persona's weird because they time gate dungeons.
But yeah, we can't only talk about the good. Do you have a weakest link?
Yeah, it's a very fucking obvious one too, the development cycle. These games take forever between fucking releases to bring out the new thing. SMT5 was the worst.
Didn't it get announced like years ago?
It got announced when the Switch came out.
Fucking hell. That's, man, what's like 2017?
All I know is it's been years. It's like SMT5, exclusive to the Switch. Cool, yay, when's it coming out? We don't know. Then every time Atlas did anything, it was always more Persona 5 spin-offs. And it's like, okay, if it's not Persona 6 and it's not SMT5, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, I did buy Royal and I enjoyed Royal, but still.
I would vastly have preferred to have Royal on any other console than the PlayStation again.
Yeah, well, tough shit.
Yep.
I want Atlas to embrace the PC at this point. Like, they're not demanding on the systems.
They really would run on a PC, that's the thing.
It's a turn-based strategy. I don't care if the graphics aren't great.
I can run at 1 FPS in a turn-based strategy, I'll just wait for the next second.
But yes, do you have a weakest link for me, Rick?
I was going to single out social links that were a bit shit, but you made a much more salient point, let's be honest. So I'm just going to fall back on yours and agree with you that they could put a lot more time, resources, and effort into staying on target. But they haven't. But now that they're owned by Sega, it's going to get even fucking worse. So, last one. Do you have an MVP?
I'm going to give it to the translation team. They have a lot of dialogue and a lot of text. Even the non-voice lines they have to translate. And boy, do they knock it out of the park almost every time. Like, they managed to do it in time for SMT5 to have a global release.
Sure.
The team that they've got really does understand that, no, you can't just translate directly. You've got to get the direct translation, and then you've got to look at the translation, and then you've got to swap words and make the translation make sense.
You have to localize, not just transliterate.
I'll throw it back to you, Rick. Who's your MVP?
It might be a little bit milquetoast, but I'm going to give it to Yu Narukami, the main character from Persona 4. He's the glue that glues my favourite one of the 3 together, and it's my favourite one of the 3 because it made me care about Persona a lot more than 3 did. And it's weird that, yes, 5 might be a better game, but I feel like there was a lot more camaraderie in 4. They felt like legitimate friends from start to finish, and I think it's because of Narukami, even though he's a bit of a silent protagonist.
Interesting fact, Yu Narukami is the only protagonist who does not have a charisma stat because he's already a Chad.
But yeah, if you've made it this far, as always, you are our favourite people. If you want to get in contact with us, you have the comment section on YouTube, and if you're listening to us on our audio platforms, you have our email address, which is
nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. Once again, that is nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com.
So it's going to be a thank you and a goodbye from me.
And don't forget to forge your S-links and or confidants. See you next week, guys.
Persona.